season to make sure you know who you're picking, right? So, but that's that part. The other part is they're talking about changing how the actual lottery works, the lottery system. As far as the 2nd to 7th round, it all depends on how you finish. That's where you go. There's no lottery. The first round is a lottery. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I want to hear your opinion first. But why does that change? Why not? If they're going to do it 2nd to 7th round, why not do it for the 1 to 7? And if it works that way, maybe they're not guaranteed finish last, get you guaranteed first pick, and they don't want that. I think that's the reasoning. Let's hear your opinion on it so I can rip you apart.
Well, my opinion is not going to be popular, but I have an opinion. I don't think the worst team in the league should always get the number 1 overall pick.
They don't.
I don't think that. Why are we promoting everyone being a loser? It doesn't make sense. Like teams,
we're not. Yeah, we're not promoting everyone being a loser. Detroit was last place by like 29 points and got 4th overall.
But that doesn't matter. They still have the number 1. They're still tanking. They're still deliberately trying to lose. We need to be promoting teams doing better in the league. So what I think you should do, I think the NHL should move to a system where if you're a team, say you missed the playoffs by 1 or 2 points, you get a higher pick. You need to be rewarded for doing good in the NHL. No,
you're fucking nuts, man.
You can't keep rewarding these teams like Phoenix.
Toronto wouldn't have a team right now. They wouldn't. They would suck.
That doesn't matter. They would have to rebuild a different way. They would have to rebuild a different way. You can't have a team like Ottawa who basically come and said, "We are going to win 10 games this year." If there were people who said, "Why would you pay? Why would you pay to go see that? Why would you pay to go see it?"
So now we're going to make up shit. We're going to win 10. Ottawa didn't see that. Ottawa wanted to go to the playoff. What they said before the season is we want to be a playoff team, whether they believed it or not. But that's what they said. We didn't all believe it. I didn't believe it, but that's what they said.
Exactly. So if you look at that team, as an educated fan, do you think they're a playoff team?
Yeah.
No, they're not a playoff team.
Okay, so then you're going to have.
And the Leafs are tanking too. I'm not saying the Leafs are doing the same thing.
Here's the thing. You're going to have the bottom 10 teams are stuck there forever. How the hell, how are you ever going to get out of that hole?
I'm not saying you go reverse order. What I'm saying is you shouldn't. The teams
never going to get them out of there.
The teams that are tanking, maybe they get the 4th pick, the 5th pick. You can't always give these guys the first overall pick.
Do you understand why they're tanking? Do you get why they're tanking?
I absolutely understand why they're tanking. They're tanking because they want better players. So if you discourage them from getting better players, they're not going to get better.
But maybe they've had their play. Look at Chicago right now, okay? So Chicago, for instance, Chicago's shit to bed. They're almost doing the same thing. They've won their championships, right? They signed Taves. They had all these big names. Keith. They're too old, but their cap's up there. So they have to, it's like recycling players, bringing in new players. The only way to do that is through the draft properly. If you just go, we're going to sign guys, you can't. So you're going to sign 3rd and 4th liners like Stepan and Tierney that suck? I mean, the only way to do it is through the draft. I 100% disagree with you. I hope the rest of the followers do.
I'm not saying it's building through the draft is the way to go. But just because Chicago says, okay, we throw our hands up, we're not good anymore.
But they're not throwing their hands up. There's a battle.
But some teams are. When the Leafs got
Matthews, telling me Ottawa doesn't want a first overall this year? Watch Ottawa play the last 5 games. They probably had more heart than Toronto had.
It doesn't matter about the heart. The management team is deliberately tanking that team. The management team is not giving them.
Who's deliberately tanking?
Pierre Dorion is not going out and getting the players he needs to get them. He is deliberately trying to get them first overall pick, which is fine because that's what the rules are right now. But
tell me if you're Pierre Dorion, who the hell are you going to get right now? Who are you going to get?
What are you talking about?
You said Pierre Dorion's deliberately not going to go and get players. Yes, he is. He's growing a team from the start. He's telling you what he wants to do. He's drafting, he's getting players. He's growing these players, and that's his chance of
because he's doing that because that's what the rules promote. You don't get it. That's what the rules promote right now. So of course he's doing it.
We're not all in Toronto Maple Leafs. You can't all just go out and say, hey, Tavares, here's 11 million, here's 11 million, here's 11 million, here's 11 million. And then now we're in the playoff round at 17.
That's not my problem. If Eugene doesn't have the money to go get John,
17 years, no playoff
take it up with Eugene. Don't talk to Toronto. Take it up with Eugene.
You're wrong.
Tell him to make some investments.
Wrong.
So we've got to make teams try. Tanking is killing sports. Look at baseball.
No, it's
Look
not.
at football.
Nobody's tanking.
Teams are deliberately tanking. Ottawa's tanking. When Toronto got Matthews, they were tanking. If you don't see they're tanking, you're wrong. They're deliberately trying to lose. Not the players or the coach, but the management is saying, we would rather lose than field a competitive team, and it's hurting sports.
I disagree. I mean, I look at Toronto. If they didn't do what they did, they wouldn't have Matthews. They wouldn't have Marner.
I understand
They wouldn't have Nylander. They wouldn't have these high guys. And now look at them. The fans fucking love it. They're eating it up. They fucking love Matthews. TSN's telling the fans what Matthews had for breakfast, how big of a shit he had. And the fucking fans love it. That's simple. They
Of
love
course
it.
not.
Why? Because he's first overall, because he's a hell of a player. Toronto doesn't tank. Toronto doesn't get him. They get another Phil Kessel.
Oh, so now you're admitting. So now
Phil
you're admitting Toronto tanks. Of course, Toronto, the management team, was
My
trying to get
point
them
is this:
because
the
that's what
draft
the rules
lottery,
promote.
it should go the other way. Should go the other way.
You're wrong. That's my opinion on
All
it,
right,
and I'm
well,
sticking to
we're
it.
going to hear what our fans have to say to that.
Okay.
So here's what I think. I've got a few different options here. This is how I think it should go. I mean, look at last year, a team that made the playoffs, or the play downs, whatever the hell it is, got to play, had a chance at Lafreniere, who is at the time supposed to be one of the best players in a long time, or since McDavid. He hasn't turned out quite yet to be that, but he's still very, very young, guys. So I'm not saying he's not going to do that. They were at the opportunity to that. That's bullshit to me. That's just a joke. And I know the NHL.
But
and
last year was different too. You can't compare that to. That's not.
I can compare it. What do you mean I can't?
It's
compare
only
it?
because of COVID, though. That's the only reason that happened.
Why did any of those teams that got to play the top 24? Why did any of them have a chance? It's a joke. And 90% of the people I spoke with, even Leaf fans, said, "If we get him, that's such a joke.
It
like,
is a joke.
I'll love it. It's a joke." So you just admitted then. I'm right. Thank you.
It's a joke. That's what the rules were just because of COVID. It's not like that's the NHL's policy. That's not a rule anymore.
But that's what
it was
I'm
literally
trying to
a one-year
is,
thing.
Yeah. So the point is, if you finish top 24 and you have a
So the
chance
point
to
is, when there's a pandemic, don't change your rules.
No, that was never the rule.
Get your
So
point.
top 24 teams got a chance to Stanley Cup. Okay, because it was play down, so it was instead of 16. If you lost out, Pittsburgh Penguins were a Stanley Cup team. They were top 8. They lost to Montreal. They still had a chance to get Lafreniere. That is not fair, and that's where it was broken, and they know it. Same thing. Bottom. It'll be 16 teams coming up. Bottom 15 right now. 15th has a chance. I think that's BS. My thing, and I would like to see is, and there's some different ways. I'm not sold on it, but the only way to keep this system going is if people do get draft players and keep going. If Toronto went shitty, now they're a top contender, they're first place in the division. It's a cycle, guys. You have to have a cycle. That's life. You go down, you go up. You go down, you go up. You get better. So my thing is maybe they already have it where you can finish last. Detroit finished last place and got 4th overall. They're rattled. Mm-hmm. I think I don't hate it. I don't really necessarily. I was hated how it was the number 1 team. Rangers was a team that was in the top 24. I hated that, but I didn't hate that Detroit was 4th. But here's a prime example, and this is where I 100% disagree with you. Well, you try to lose and then you go for first overall. Ottawa's had second last the last 3 years. I know it was 3 years in a row. I think it was 3 years in a row. Second last they finished. They got 4th every time. 4th twice and 5th once. So they're not even. There's no guarantee you're even getting top 3. They didn't get top 3 once. So the way they have it is actually more directed towards what you think. Where
I like
actually
this.
means shit.
I do like this.
So I think this is what I don't like. I don't like anybody outside the bottom 5 having a chance at that. That's what I don't like. You finish bottom 5. So my thing, this is just one example, but I would do bottom 5, you guys have a chance at first overall. If you finish last, you get a little bit higher percentage to 5th. It changes a bit percentage-wise. That makes sense, guys. And then the next 5, same thing. You have that 5. You guys can only finish in that 5. And then the next, it would be 5 or 6. 6 now with Seattle, right? My numbers? Yeah. 6 now with Seattle. You guys draft in that order, right? And then for 2 to 7, it goes on your position. That's that's kind of one of the things I like, because if you finish, 14th, 15th or whatever, I don't think you should have a chance at first. I just think and they're saying, and I think they do it because, anybody can make it. So they get people to watch. Well, they get people to watch some of these balls and most people don't even think it's real. They think it's BS and already planned. I mean, ask people, they're just like, there's no way Gary Bettman's screwing over. We don't even get to see the balls go. I do think it is legitimate. I did watch a show on it one time. It wasn't last year's thing. It was the year before, I believe, where they showed it. But remember last year that ball floated or something?
Yeah.
So that's what gets people thinking, right? So I don't know. My thing is, and I think the best way I would do it is the 5, 5, and 6. The bottom 5 get the chance. So if you're 5th, you still get that chance. But you can't finish last and then draft 10th overall. You're never, ever going to get these teams back into it. But I will agree on this. If you finish last, that should never guarantee you first overall.
Exactly. That's
like
my
that.
main point. Yeah.
I'll agree to that, but I will
Yep.
not agree that a 15th place team should get first.
No.
I'm somewhere in the middle, so that's why I like my 5, 5, and 5, or 5, 5, and 6. I guess.
I do like your 5, 5, and 5 idea. My problem is that every year, if the rule is that it's set in stone that if you finish last, you get the first pick, you're encouraging teams to tank, and that is not good for the sport. That's my main concern with it. That's my main concern with it. Another concern I had is, and if that's the rule, that if you finish last, you get the first overall pick, and you're just a team that stays, you want all these guys on entry level contracts, so you pay them peanuts, and then when it's time to pay them, you're trade them off. The NHL needs to, and all sports need to get out of that cycle where teams.
But they're not in that cycle. They're not in the cycle.
The NHL is not in that cycle. I agree. Other sports are.
Okay, there we go. We agree. So now you're saying I'm right.
I'm saying other
Brokey's right.
What we need to do is, if you have, say, Mitch Marner coming up on his deal and he had 3 good years, and now you don't want to pay him $10 million, Toronto does. It shouldn't just be, okay, I'm going to trade Mitch, and then I'm going to get all these picks, and I'm just going to tank again and get more good players. It's a never-ending cycle for some teams, and the NHL has to discourage that. So I do like your 5 and 5. I do.
Give me an example. I mean, give me an example who it's a never-ending cycle.
When was the last time Phoenix made it out of the first round? Phoenix deliberately.
When was the last time Phoenix drafted high pick?
Phoenix never goes to the top of the cap.
When did they draft the high? I can't even remember their high pick.
The owner's just trying to make a little bit of money, stay afloat.
But your example's wrong, because when was the last time Phoenix drafted first overall or high pick? I don't even remember.
I don't know.
So your example's wrong. Ottawa is in a cycle, yeah, just like Edmonton. But look at Edmonton. Edmonton's got top 2 scorers in the league. They're trying. They're not trying to get last. They're trying to win the Stanley Cup. Are they going to? No. But they're trying to make the playoffs, and they got a legitimate shot at it this year. So they're breaking that cycle. Detroit, yeah, okay, they're last place. Detroit made the playoffs 25 years in a row. So now they're in a little bit of a drain. They're going to build up players, and they're going to try and do that 25 years in a row again. They're not going to do it, but they're going to try. Ottawa, same thing. They almost went to the Cup final in 2017, so they rebuild it. It's taken them maybe a little longer than they think, but they're going to be a playoff team in a couple of years. I would bet on that. I think they've got way too many picks. I mean, they still have to follow, and they still got to get these players developed and whatnot, but I think they're in the same thing. I think they're about 5 years behind Toronto right now. Toronto was awful. They barely made the playoffs, but then they made the playoffs. They got out of that cycle a little bit faster. Why? Because they got Matthews. If they don't get Matthews and they get Laine, they might not make the playoffs that first year.
Agreed. Agreed.
So there you go. So my point is, this is what I'm going to end at, because it's been a long argument. I agree with you as far as don't giving the last place automatic first overall, 100%. But you can't have a 13th place team or whatever it was. Pittsburgh, when the season ended, I know it was a COVID thing, was like 7th, 6th or 7th, I think. In the conference.
They were.
And they had a chance at first overall. That's bullshit, and that was wrong last year. And 90% of the people I talked to, the hockey people I talked to, agreed with me on that. And I know the NHL knows they screwed up there, because they probably didn't think it was going to happen, even though it was only like a 3 or 5%. But it did. The Rangers got in. Now, thankfully, the Rangers were outside of that top 16 anyways, but they still were in that 24. So I still feel that was an unfair thing, and they shouldn't have got them. Oh, it's over and done with. Moving forward, my idea is the 5, 5, and 6. That's my idea, and that's what I'm sticking to.
I don't mind the 5, 5, 6. Let's move on.
Percentages, I don't know, but we'll have to figure that out. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, one thing we want to talk about was the